To me, the Rockets are pretty simply, what leap do the kids take? That's how the expectations, which to me, the expectations are playoffs. Like they make the top 8 this year. So like if it's the play-in and they fight their way in through the play-in, or they just make the playoffs, whatever, right? Like I think you and I think it's somewhat unlikely they just like straight make the playoffs, but that I think is what their reasonable expectation is under Ime Udoka. Steven Adams coming in as the backup center, all of the internal growth potential. Tari Eason, hopefully playing a full season. Can they actually do that? And I'll just ask you, like, what kids are you most excited to see this year?
Oh no,
in Houston?
I'm not answering that question. You get cooked every time you do it. I was laughing.
This isn't a what is best. Like,
I know.
Which ones are you most excited to watch, though?
Yeah, no, I'll answer it. That I was laughing if you're watching on YouTube as you went through that, because I put playoff team, young guys continue to grow, and it doesn't come from an outlier year from the veterans. Like I don't want.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't want, but if the Rockets make the playoffs because Dylan Brooks has some outlandish season and Fred goes, like that's not necessarily how I want it to happen. I want it to happen because we see a Min become the player we've talked about, or Cam or JSJ or Jalen Green finds the efficiency or whatever. Like that's what I would want it, to see it from. I think because they're guys I was super high on, Jabari, Cam, and probably a Min are the 3 that I would just say I'm most interested to see how they progress this year. And it's again, because those were guys coming into the drafts I was a big fan of. And so there's just a vested interest of, was I right? Was I wrong? All of those things. I mean, obviously there's plenty of other guys that are interesting. Reed will be fascinating, all of that, but it's those 3 specifically for me.
So this was a top 10 defense last year, right? I felt like the reason they were a top 10 defense was by and large the addition of Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks. The addition of those 2 made life so much easier on their bigs to be able to defend and be able to play at a high level. Alperen Sengun, for instance, was drastically helped on defense by having those 2 guys. Fred played 73 games last year. Dylan Brooks played 72. I think that what Houston needs is hopefully so that Fred doesn't have to play 2,600 minutes this season and Dylan doesn't have to play 2,300, right? If they can, get 1,000 minutes back from those 2 in some way, where Dylan's playing 1,800 and Fred's around like 2,000 or
Fred played 37 minutes a night, Sam.
Yeah, he played a crazy amount. By far their most important player last year. I do not care what Rockets fans say. I am telling you, Fred VanVleet was their most important player last year. The amount of communication he gave them on defense, the structure he gave them at the point of attack defensively, the decision-making and ball handling ability. He averaged 8 assists versus only 1.7 turnovers. He also shot 39% from 3 and gave them like real floor spacing. The ability to like structure their offense. Fred was by far their most important player last year.
6th in the NBA in minutes per game. 6th in the NBA in minutes per game.
Alperen Sengun is also a great budding young player in the league. He averaged 21 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists. I would like to see Alperen take a bit of a leap in terms of efficiency on the interior as a scorer and on the defensive end. With that structure around him, he's going to have a men chasing guys over screens. He's going to have, Reed Shepherd, I think will give a lot of effort, at least like fighting around screens. Whether or not he's capable of it and of its size, we'll see. He has like a great defensive infrastructure now. Tari Eason, another great defender that they're going to have around him, right? I would like to see him continue to take another step forward. He took one last year. I think taking another step forward defensively will be very big for Alperen.
Yep.
Steven Adams coming in and being like a real backup center. Honestly, like I'm interested to see like, can Steven beat out Jock Londale? Like I think Jock Londale is an NBA player, like truthfully. And Steven is coming off of a lost season where he was very injured and was unable to play. If Steven Adams can really play and be the Steven Adams of old, yeah, like they have a real shot at being a playoff team. If he's not that, I do worry a little bit about the defense on the interior unless Alperen takes another leap. Or unless like Amen Thompson is just like going to swat shots from like the weak side like constantly, and Tari's going to swat shots from the weak side constantly. Like they have so many this team is so talented. They really are.
Defense could be pretty good, Sam. To where
it should be very good. They have 3 guys in Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, and Amen Thompson who are legitimately awesome defenders, and that's before we get to Tari Eason, who's like strong and switchable and physical. Like they have some real dudes, and Jayshawn Tate's a good defender. You know, Jayshawn Tate played 1,000 minutes last season. I don't know where his minutes are coming from this year, frankly. Yeah. So it's a fascinating group, and we haven't even really talked about Jabari Smith. And like if Jabari Smith takes another step forward, where he averages, like seriously, a reasonable step forward for Jabari Smith is him being a 21-year-old that averages 17 points and 9 rebounds. He averaged 14 points and 8 rebounds last season. If he's at like 17 and 9 as a 21-year-old, we should be talking about him as one of the like truly great young, forwards in the league, right? That'd be amazing if he's that young, averaging those kind of numbers.
Yep.
So that's how they exceed expectation. It's just all the internal growth from the kids to me. And it doesn't have to be numbers necessarily. In Jabari's case, I think it probably will be numbers, but Alperen, it's defense. Cam Whitmore, it's like defensive rotations and constantly like being in position. Amen Thompson, it's shooting. Like that's obvious. Tari Eason's just like getting on the floor, right? Like Tari is always going to be productive when he's on the court. But like continuing to knock down shots from the perimeter, which he's done so far, but showing that he can be a threat to knock down those shots consistently. Fascinating team. Like truly one of the teams I'm most looking forward to watching. And honestly, the team I will probably watch like all of their first 10 games. Sure. I can almost guarantee you that because I just want to see how all these kids look.
Yeah, no, they'll be a lot of fun to watch.